Okay, guys, settle down, settle down. My name is Mr. Buckthorn, and today's class will be about sexuality. Do we have any questions? Oh.
So, like, what's Pornhub all about?
So like, my condom ripped yesterday, but I taped it up, so I should be good, right?
Mr. Buckthorn, what's your favorite position?
I
haven't had a match on Tinder in like 2 hours. Do you think I'm pretty?
Okay, all these questions can be answered if you just watch INTERLIVING TV's show about sexuality.
So why are we here then? That's a good question, and I will have all of the answers for you next class. Class dismissed.
Hey guys, I found Pornhub.
Today on INTERLIVING TV, what is the first thing that attracts you to a potential lover? And is there a science behind it? And when it comes to sex, we will tell you how you can benefit from it, health-wise, of course.
Also, we take a deeper look into misunderstood topics, such as gender fluidity and porn addiction. Don't go anywhere. INTERLIVING TV starts now.
Hello, and welcome to INTERLIVING TV, the idea of different individuals with different ideas coming together and coexisting. I'm Delisha Williams.
I'm Ryan Chongtai.
I'm Kelsey Lusk.
And I'm Arvinor Jones. On today's show, we're going to be talking about sex, how it's good, its dark side through porn addiction, attraction, and gender fluidity. So guys, let's talk about attraction. Ladies, I want to start off with you first. What attracts you to males?
Well, I find myself being attracted to guys with kind eyes. Like, it's just something I'm drawn to. And like good mannerisms, like a gentleman.
Okay. Well, what attracts me to a guy is his personality and appearance. When it comes to his personality, he kind of has to be like me. Kind, outgoing, and family-oriented. Sports is okay, but to a certain extent. What about you two?
Assets. Just want to clarify that, you know. She has to be very, adventurous, passionate, independent. I'm looking for a mate, someone I could be with, and my best friend, essentially.
For me, it's just a sense of humor. I love to laugh, and it goes both ways. So if my jokes go over her head, I go right out the door.
Well, it seems like everyone here knows what they're looking for, but what is there behind attraction? Our first segment is the science behind attraction. Reporter Tazine Taluka has the story.
That the color of your shirt or your natural odor determines your attractiveness? This adds up to the 5 senses of attraction. These include smell, taste, sight, touch, and hearing. I spoke with Nicole McKins, who is a dating expert and a psychologist. And we have also set up a blind date between 2 people who have never met or seen each other before. Now, we're going to capture their first encounter and find out if they're really attracted to each other.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So to me, the science of attraction is really something that's kind of outside of our control. You can't have a choice. If you go on a blind date, you really have no choice because there's so many people who show up to that date that want to be attracted and leave feeling disappointed.
My expectation, I don't really have any, just kind of doing this because I'm a nice person. I don't know.
It's like a nice smile, like good hair, good sense of style. That's pretty important. Yeah, that's it. Like a nice body. Like, you know what I mean, sort of.
Easygoing. That's like a really big, like if our personalities click right away, or what they're like, more or less. And if they can make me laugh, then automatically I don't really care too much because I like laughing, so.
Because it's visual. Men are more visual than women.
I'm more curious than anything. Like, this is gonna be interesting.
Well, it's the first date, so I don't expect him to be like hugging me or anything, right?
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Awesome. All right.
Water, right?
Food.
Yeah, it's fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, you?
I'm pretty good. Excited? My blind date, it was good. It was an experience, that's for sure. It wasn't something I'm used to, but it wasn't a bad experience.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
What's your sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh my god, my sister's a Scorpio.
Oh, cool.
I'm really into the signs. My mom.
Really?
My mom's crazy about it.
The reason why I wouldn't go on another date with her is she mentioned star signs a little bit too much for me. And yeah, a little bit too new agey, I guess.
The first thing that I noticed was his hair. That was the very first thing that I noticed. He has red hair, I like red hair. That was the first thing I noticed, yeah.
But it's not always visual. I think particularly for women, if I was to pick a different gender, I'm more here, it's about how he makes me feel, more than it's how he looks.
I totally forgot that it was being shaved. Is there anything like go back and see me like shopping within my face? Shit.
Oh, yeah.
Seems really nice. Like he was a gentleman, all that, but just not for me, unfortunately.
Her voice is kind of nasally. That's something that I noticed. I think mine is too, though. Like everyone, like it's just a thing that happens. Her voice wasn't annoying. Like she was no Janice from Friends, that's for sure.
There are some people, visually is important, but there are also people, attraction to them is what I hear. It's what he tells me. If he tells me I'm beautiful and so on, I'm gonna be more attracted to him or her. And then there are other people that it's just the way that he touches me or she touches me. It's like nobody else. I melt. Like time actually stops when I'm with them.
I want to say that I shook his hand. I'm pretty sure that we shook hands.
We just shook hands. That's all we did.
Seldom that I use my touching senses to get to know somebody.
So don't get stuck on a type. We all do that because we love our types and we're visual people and that's fine. And we almost envision our future, like my wife's gonna look like this, right? And then when you meet your wife and she doesn't look like that, you're kind of like, it's hard to reconcile.
I guess she's just not like really my type.
He seems really nice though. Like he seems like a nice guy, just not someone for me.
Like I guess it's back to the senses. Like the sense in a way of just feeling like calmer, like I just feel like life is better with him. It's not gonna matter that he's 5'6" or whatever at that point.
Sorry.
Dude, that is crazy. Would you guys ever do a date like that, a blind date?
I don't know. That's pretty brave. I'm not sure if I would, but
I wouldn't.
Well, actually, I've been on a blind date.
Oh, yeah?
6 years later with a 3-year-old.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Dude, good for you.
Yeah.
That's brave.
It's interesting like that because like attraction is such an interesting concept when you break it down like that. Like it's one of those things that you can explain with science, but at the same time you can't explain it. Like that's love. And like simply touching somebody releases oxytocin, which is a powerful hormone that helps strengthen relationships. Endorphins too, which are a natural painkiller, which helps you feel like a sense of well-being. Like that's a more interesting thing, but both are amplified with sex.
Is it all really just about pleasure? In this next segment, we're going to talk about the scientific truths and expert opinion behind the health benefits of sex. Prepare to be enlightened on how you can increase your overall happiness, sleep better, burn more calories, relieve stress, and more. Coming up, Ryan and I are going to talk to an expert for a closer look.
Healthy relationships and good sex can enhance individuals' quality of life. Studies show that engaging in sexual activity has many positive physical, intellectual, emotional, psychological, and social benefits that improve overall wellness. According to alternative physician Dr. McCullough, having sex 1 to 2 times a week can keep your overall health stabilized. Mercola also states that sex can burn, on average, 100 calories per half hour. Gynecologist Dr. Holly Thacker says hormones during sex can cause better circulation, balancing blood pressure and heart rate. It engages almost every muscle in your body. In 90% of cases, Dr. Mercola says sex will strengthen your immune system. Your heart, the very core of your existence, will thank you.
Joining us via Skype is sexual health consultant Tainan Rea, who specializes in a holistic approach to what you need to know about your sexual health. Tainan, thanks for joining us.
No problem, my pleasure.
So why is sex important?
Sex is important because it's part of our health and well-being. It's interconnected to our physical, mental, and emotional health. And most of us will have sex at some point in our lives, and many of us are having sex regularly. So it's obviously a big part of our lives. I also think it's really important to consider why people are having sex, such as many people have sex for pleasure, procreation, as an income, to connect with a friend or romantic partner. And it's important for us to figure out how sex makes us feel so we can determine when and how we want to engage our sexuality.
Cool, okay. And what are some of the health benefits of sex?
There are so many health benefits to sex. My favorite go-to health benefit is the de-stressing quality of sex. When we have sex, and specifically when we have an orgasm, there are endorphins and oxytocin, which are known mood-boosting chemicals. So it's the fastest, easiest way to de-stress. And you don't need a partner to do it, as many of us know, the miracle of masturbation.
What do you think is the most important benefit?
I think the best benefit to sex is the fact that there are so many benefits that depending on what we need at a particular point in time, that will be the best benefit. So it can change depending on what we need.
Are there any illnesses that sex can prevent?
There are many illnesses that sex can indirectly prevent and directly prevent. One of the direct preventions can be prostate cancer or prostatitis, which is inflammation of the prostate. That can be directly countered by stimulating the prostate. Many indirect benefits or many indirect ways to prevent illnesses is through the mood-boosting chemicals during orgasm, and sex can also really work our heart. So any illnesses related to the heart, it's extremely beneficial.
Cool.
Okay, and how do the benefits differentiate between men and women?
Unless it's equipment related, like in the case of prostatitis, most of the benefits are the same among men and women. Men and women can equally access the benefits of sex through partnered sex or through masturbation, and their gender and sex really has nothing to do with it.
Okay, well, I've been slacking at the gym lately, so do you think sex would be a good form of exercise?
Absolutely, as long as you're the one taking charge. So maybe not the person on top. You might want to be the top for a little while.
So is sex too much of a bad thing?
It's
like
too much of sex a bad thing?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, it's not so much the amount of sex that can be a problem. It's when sex starts to interfere with our work or relationships in a negative way. So it's really up to us to determine if sex is becoming more of a hindrance than a help. And then we might need to take a more critical approach to understanding why and how we're using sex.
Okay, this isn't for me, I'm just asking for a friend, but
Yeah.
what would happen if someone were to refrain from sex for a long time?
There's many different things that can happen from refraining from sex for a long time, but one of the most classic lines in my line of work that I hear over and over again is use it or lose it. And often this refers to sometimes if we refrain from sex from a long time, particularly as we're aging, it can become more difficult to gain an erection later or to lubricate later. Doesn't mean this is going to happen, and it really does depend on your age. That's a big factor. So, but for many of us, the general rule is use it or lose it. Your penis won't fall off. Your clitoris won't fall off.
I did hear a rumor. Okay, well, thank you so much for that.
No problem, my pleasure.
Thanks very much, Tainan. For more information on Tainan's practice, you could visit nrashealth.ca. We'll be right back.
Want to know more about sexuality? Check out some of the stories our web team is working on, like what you need to know about sexual enhancement drugs, the science about who you're attracted to, and if monogamy is realistic. You can also follow us on Twitter at INTERLIVING TV.
Well, looks like I know what I'm going to be doing tonight. Great cardio, right, for that?
Cardio. Well, at least you know that whenever your girlfriend says she has a headache, you have a way to fix it.
Got it. How cool was that, though?
Incredible. You always hear about the benefits of sex, but I didn't realize just how many there are.
Dude, I'm gonna have to rewatch that and take notes later.
Don't worry about it. I got you, okay?
No, thanks, man.
Guys, study later. Right now, it's time to talk about something that just recently became more mainstream.
Gender fluidity.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, gender fluid is to not subscribe to one particular gender.
In fact, somebody who is gender fluid may describe themselves as male today, but tomorrow could feel more as a female.
See, when I was a kid, I dressed in all boys clothing all the time, and I got bullied for it. But nowadays, it's a lot more acceptable to express yourself regardless of your gender.
So what does it mean to be gender fluid in a millennial society? We met with one person who identifies this way, and they agreed to talk to us about it. Our very own Kyle Johnston got an inside look.
Gender fluidity is something I've heard about a couple times, mostly just on social media, especially on Tumblr, where everyone's a little bit more open about who they are, their personalities, and their lifestyles. But other than that, it's not really something that I hear on a daily basis.
I've actually never heard about gender fluidity before. Yeah, this is the first time I heard about it.
Gender fluidity is a term that's all news to me. I never even knew this term existed.
I have heard of gender fluidity before class, before school. I have friends that are gender fluid, so that's how I knew about it.
Gender fluidity is a term that I've heard before on like social media and stuff like that, but this is kind of the first time I've actually gone into it.
To be gender fluid refers to somebody who is not confined to one gender. On any given day, they may identify as being female, or in another instance, they may identify as being male. Gender fluidity, though, has identified with the millennials. A 2011 study in the USA had around 3,500 participants, with an average age of 19. All were under 32. I spoke with Holly Gray, who was a 20-year-old gender fluid millennial living in Ontario.
The simplest way I can define being agender is that I just don't have one. You see male and female all the time in our general Western binarism, but I am neither of those things in any capacity, regardless of, how I dress or what I like to do. I personally don't identify with either gender whatsoever.
Dr. Angel Pacheco is a registered clinical psychologist who specializes in sexuality.
Gender fluidity, we have that the anatomy is not that important anymore because they can use it whichever way they want and they still feel good because it projects itself beyond the anatomy. It's a state of being of the individual as opposed to being limited by whatever organs they have as part of their makeup and constitution.
Gender as a concept has always been very difficult for me to understand. So identifying as agender is both me accepting myself for who I am, but also using the label to express to others where I'm at as far as understanding what gender is and how it's applied and everything else.
I definitely believe it's a choice, that gender fluidity is a choice. I also believe it's a phase. Scientifically and religiously, we're born as male or female. You can't alternate between moods. Oh, today I feel like being a boy, tomorrow I feel like being a girl. No, you either have the female anatomy or the male anatomy and that's it. It's just something for attention, I think.
I personally think that gender fluidity is a lifestyle.
I think it's more of a phase. I feel like if you're lesbian or gay or bi, I feel like that's something who you are, but I feel like gender fluidity is more of like you're more so confused or trying to figure that out.
How does a person choose what to do or how to be in a given moment? It really depends on whatever flows from them at that particular instance. The idea of choosing depending on your current feelings So the same analogy can be said whether you choose to have a hamburger versus a pizza slice. Why? Because that's what you want to do at this particular moment in your life.
When I go to job interviews, I have no idea what to wear, how to act half the time. Even when I'm making friends, it's very difficult because I never know how people are going to react to my identity, how people are going to respect my identity. And most of all because my identity is something that isn't really talked about outside of, the small niche spaces of the queer community.
The fact is, many people still don't understand the term gender fluid or understand what it means to subscribe to more than just one gender. A 2013 Trans Pulse study looked at the Ontario gender fluid community and found that 35% had thought about committing suicide. The hope is, with time, will come acceptance.
Acceptance may be closer than we think. Earlier this year, Zara launched a new ungendered line of clothing.
Yeah, and I just heard that Urban Decay, a makeup company, announced that gender fluid model Ruby Rose is going to be their new ambassador.
And you guys, don't forget Jaden Smith absolutely killing that skirt in the latest Louis Vuitton women's wear ad.
Yeah. So, Arvian, what are you doing?
Well, I was wondering how gender fluidity would impact the porn industry, so I just wanted to check it out.
Dude, you're watching too much porn.
No, are you kidding me? I'm not even close to too much. According to Pornhub, the website, the world consumes over 4 billion hours of porn. And I'm merely searching.
Wow, that's scary. And how do you know all this?
Art of research?
Okay, that is creepy. Who has the time for all that?
Okay, that's not creepy. You know what is? The fact that Canada is the fourth largest porn consumer in the world last year, and Lisa Ann is the most searched porn star in Canada.
Lisa Ann, eh? Okay, gotta check her out later. Well, let me guess, is this from Pornhub as well?
Yes, sir, you know it.
Ryan! Look, Arvian, there is such thing as too much porn, and it can be bad for you. And I don't need to convince you. Coming up, we have a psychotherapist, Paul Clark, to tell you all about it.
Graphic images can be traced back hundreds of years in content such as art, film, and literature. According to a brief history of porn done by Alternate, the 1900s began the era of illegally shot, consumed, and distributed films, and saw the initial boom of the porn industry. Now fast forward to present day, and adult content is accessible to anybody with an internet connection. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around the amount of porn being watched daily all over the world. According to the popular adult video website, Pornhub, Canada has ranked the third highest per capita in page views. In the same study, Pornhub revealed that they streamed 75 gigabytes of data a second, which translates to enough porn to fill the storage of around 175 million 16 gigabyte iPhones. That's a lot. So with all of this content available at our fingertips, is this doing our society more harm than good? How has this content affected our personal lives, relationships, and our mindsets?
Joining us from Mississauga is Paul Clark, psychotherapist. Thank you for coming in today, Paul. So just to start off, I'd like to ask, what is porn addiction?
Porn addiction, and there are some debates over whether or not pornography can be an addiction or whether it's a compulsive behavior, but essentially it would be when viewing pornography starts to have negative consequences on your life. So it's really variable, right? It's a situation to situation.
Well, that being said, that you said it affects your life, how does it impact a relationship?
Well, and this is the tricky question, is it impacting a relationship? There's an incredibly diverse number of opinions on what is does pornography addiction exist, and then is pornography in a relationship? There's a a widely different tolerance on what is acceptable within a relationship. Some couples would say, if there's a tendency, it's usually that the man is more interested in pornography than the woman, and some women would have zero tolerance for any kind of pornography within the relationship. They would say that is completely unhealthy. However, some women are tolerant of it. Some women watch pornography with their husbands. So where it starts to be an addiction is when the pornography is interrupting the relationship. So are you going to pornography instead of being with your partner, or being with your partner in a healthy way?
Okay, thank you for that. So can porn be a type of betrayal in a relationship?
Again, this would, if there's anything I've learned in relationship counseling, it is that this sexuality, the area of sexuality, is one of the most diverse and complex issues. So there are wives who would say absolutely that if my husband is viewing pornography, that is a betrayal. That's like seeing another woman. More common, again, just as a ballpark, that most women would be sort of tolerant of this behavior. And again, there are occasions where the partner will actually watch pornography they'd watch pornography together or participate in some way.
And now, with that kind of relationship, how do you think porn would impact intimacy and trust if you're not okay with watching porn?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. And if you're not okay with watching porn, this is a huge issue in the relationship. And even if you are okay with your partner watching porn, but it starts to be like, when it really becomes a pornography addiction is when you start pornography is a super sensitized sexuality, right? This is the types of images that we see are typically, the people on camera are more beautiful, doing wilder things, and so it is more stimulating. So then it can cause a desensitization in the person, so that the regular intimacy with my partner, I'm no longer interested in. I can only become stimulated when there's pornography, or it's a slippery slope, pornography and then what else, right?
Of course.
Awesome. So I want to kind of take this into the psychological aspect of the addiction. So how does porn affect the brain?
Okay, that is an excellent question. So this is my brain right here. I'm glad you asked. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
But the diagram you got
Okay.
there.
Well, thank you. So actually, you can actually see the historical development of the human brain here. At the base of the brain, we have the limbic, or the reptilian brain, down here. This is where basic instincts come from: heartbeat, breathing, and then basic needs like hunger and sex drive, right? On top of that, we have the emotional brain, and then the logic and all of the things that make us more human are up here. But notice things trump this way. So basic instinct trumps emotion, emotion trumps logic. So when we start to see an addictive behavior, that's why a sexual desire, like a hunger, is such a primitive desire and so very difficult to wrestle with on a logical level, right? This is something that comes to us on from one of the most primitive parts of our brain. So it's not as simple as just saying, well, I'm going to change that behavior.
And now, with that, this will be our final question. But when it comes to addiction, what steps can you take to rid yourself of the addiction to porn?
Well, this is the sexual addiction, or pornography addiction, is one of the most difficult addictions to treat, because unlike alcohol or cocaine, all we have to do is all I have to do is quit drinking for alcohol, and that's a huge step. Sex is something we will continue to do. So it has to be a behavior that's moderated. But essentially, for the addiction, we would say abstinence. You pretty much, if you're in that place, you cannot, there's no such thing as moderate pornography use for you. You have to remove so no more pornography, and typically it's gone past that. There are also, calls, or there's online interactions, all of that has to stop, and you have to go back to basics and try and have, a relationship only with your partner.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Paul. That was actually quite informative. I'd like to take a chance to let people know to visit www.paulclark.ca. And thank you again.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Okay.
Our web team is working on some really cool stories. We send them out to find out if 36 questions can make you fall in love, find out the latest trends in unisex clothing, and has virtual reality porn changed our ideas of sex? You can see all our stories online at INTERLIVING TV.
Wow, that's a lot of food for thought. In fact, this whole episode we really covered a lot, learning and understanding differences in individuals and coexisting as we live our lives day to day.
Yeah, I learned that RVN needs help.
But I feel like this was a great topic to cover because there is so much information involved when it comes to sexuality that people may not realize.
I have a lot of notes, so where's the closest photocopier?
If you want to learn more about our website, if you want to learn more about our show, visit us at INTERLIVING TV. And don't forget to follow us on INTERLIVING TV on Twitter.
That was cool. You actually have the notes though?
I do.
Wow.
You want to go with me later?
Okay, well guys, just download them. Let's not worry about photocopying.
Like a duotang?
Oh my gosh, you guys are killing me.
I'm sure it's easier for it to be a doc.
You guys will fix